Welcome, everybody. I'm Steve Okun, CEO of APAC Advisors. This is the third in our geopolitical series on Iran. And for this one, now that we enter week three of the war, the question that we're all trying to watch is, how long is this going to go on? When is it going to come to an end? And we're going to have quite a discussion on what that means, what defines the end, and then what we should be looking for next. The question that we are asking ourselves to figure out what's going to happen next is the one that Donald Rumsfeld, when his framing, when he was asked a question as Secretary of Defense during the Gulf War in 2002, and he was asked a question, what's going to happen? What's the plans going forward with Iraq? And Secretary Rumsfeld said, well, there are known knowns, there are known unknowns, and then there's unknown unknowns when it comes to war. And the things that really get to the history of the United States and other free countries is the unknown unknowns, because you have no way of knowing what can happen and how to prepare for it. Well, in this war, we're not focused on the unknown unknowns. We're focused on the known unknowns. And there's four known unknowns that we're looking at now. One is the regime's future. Does the Republican Guard stay? Or does it fracture into sectarian warfare, which would have a huge triggering effect of refugee crisis and increased global terrorism? So that is one known unknown we have to contend with. A second, which we're seeing in real time, and Simon will talk about this, is energy weaponization. We see the United States and Israel attacking Iran's energy. We see Iran attacking energy and oil infrastructure in the Gulf, disrupting, of course, the shipping through the Strait of Hormuz. What is that weaponization of energy going to do to the global economy? A third, we've only seen this once. It's in a way the most, could be the most troubling, is an attack on water, attack on desalination plants. We saw one attack in Iran that we know of, one attack in Bahrain, I believe it was, that we know of. And if the Gulf, which is so dependent on desalination, if this were to spiral into a water crisis, that would lead us to an entirely new set of issues. Then Iran, which we're starting to see, has a ladder of escalation. And they have not done significant cyber attacks. There haven't been significant and serious 9/11 types of acts of terrorism, although we've seen cyber attacks in the United States. We've seen 4 acts of terrorism in the United States. If this ladder of escalation gets worse, that is going to be another thing we're going to have to calculate as to how long this is going to go. Now, the biggest known unknown, though, is when is this war going to end? When is and how does it end? Now, Donald Trump has said the war will end anytime I want it to end. The problem is his former defense secretary said, former Marine General James Mattis says, is no war is over until the enemy says it's over. So if the United States declares victory, it's irrelevant if Iran continues to undertake its attacks. And that's the question we have to ask ourselves. When is Iran going to stop its attacks? And it's clear that Donald Trump, we're in Asia, so we'll talk about Sun Tzu in The Art of War. It's clear that Donald Trump did not study this book from the 5th century BC. Sun Tzu wrote then, if you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. But if you know yourself but not the enemy, for every victory gained, you will also suffer a defeat. And it is clear that Donald Trump did not understand Iran, did not understand the enemy. It is also clear that Iran is following some of the tactics that Sun Tzu put forth. Make war more costly for opponent than for yourself. The naval mines that are so disruptive to the Strait of Hormuz right now. These cost as little as $1,500, yet they can incapacitate or sink a $2 billion U.S. destroyer. That's why the strait is closed unless it's for a vessel Iran says can go through. And that's that thing we need to watch the most, of course, is when will the strait open? And Simon will go into that in detail. So Donald Trump may not have asked the question of what does Iran want, but I think we can figure out it for ourselves. What does the Republican Guard want? They want two things. right? Well, they want one thing. They want to remain in power first and foremost. How are they going to remain in power? They're going to remain in power by preventing future attacks. There's only two real ways that they can prevent future attacks. Certainly from the United States. Israel can be a bit of a wild card, which we could talk about later. But the two ways they can prevent future attacks, one is the Kim Jong-un method, get a nuclear weapon. They haven't been able to do that. So they go to the second way to prevent future attacks. Their deterrent is that they can shut down the global energy supply or certainly have a significant impact on it by shutting down the strait. And so when is it that they will have shown that they can shut down or disrupt global energy supplies so that this will be a deterrent against future attacks? That is why, kind of as I would analyze this going forward, and Simon's going to go into this in much more depth, that this is going to go on for quite some time, because if Iran were to come to some agreement with the United States now, that doesn't show they have the deterrent effect to really harm the global economy. That is only going to come if this strait gets shut down for another month, 2 months, 3 months. So that's what we really have to try and understand and watch. And now, from an economic perspective, this is, or I should say, from a military perspective, this is what the Guard wants to prevent. They want to prevent the strategy of mowing the grass, right? So mowing the grass is that it's a cyclical military strategy where periodic strikes knock back a group's weapons. The Israelis have done this in Gaza. They've done this with other countries. And the issue here is, how can they prevent the United States and Israel from continuing to mow the grass or start to mow the grass in Iran? This is what they want to prevent. And it's the shutdown of the strait and the disruption of global energy that will prevent them from being hit with a mow the grass strategy. So in terms of the next steps, in analyzing, well, what will the economic impact be? If we look and think about, you can go to the next slide, Noemi. If we look and think about geopolitical events, if we use the MSCI Europe Index as a proxy, for the last 60 years, there has only been one geopolitical event that has had a negative impact on the economy longer than 12 months. And that was the Yom Kippur War of 1973. Every other geopolitical crisis, the global economy has come out of it in less than a year. You pick one: the Iranian Revolution in 79, Putin's invasion of Crimea, or the takeover of Crimea in 2014, the invasion of Ukraine in 2022, the Gulf War in 91, the Gaza War in 2023. All of them, the economy has always come back within 12 months, except the one time, and that was the Yom Kippur War in 73. And that is because it led to an oil embargo and a sustained global energy shock. And the question is, will this crisis that we're in right now, the war with Iran that we're in right now, will this be will this follow the normal historical pattern of geopolitical crises, where 12 months from now we're going to be back to where we started? Or is this going to be the anomaly of 1973 and have a real negative impact for a longer period of time? And so that's the question that I'm going to leave to Simon and that he's been dealing with. And Simon, turn it over to you.